بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We started 4 or 5 weeks ago a comparative study of 2 books on the universal human being, or al-insan al-kamil. One was from Marhum Hassan Zada, Allama Hassan Zada Amali. The book is in Persian called Insan al-Kamil Dar Nahjul Balagha, which literally means the universal man or universal human according to the dictate of Nahjul Balagha. The other book was Marhum Mutahhari's book, Insan al-Kamil, and I explained that there were huge differences in the approach of the 2 scholars. Although we don't have anything within the text of, say, a hadith or the Holy Quran regarding Insan al-Kamil, spelling of stating the word or the phrase Insan al-Kamil, but there are huge amount of literature that talks about a concept, that concept falls within the category of Insan al-Kamil. Marhum Hassan Zada Amali, because he delivered these lectures to specific audience in Qom, and they were students of his, and they were all familiar with the spirituality, philosophy, and so on. So the book is technically very dense and designed for such an audience. Although an article that he wrote for the seminar on the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he, or Nahjul Balagha, he kind of condensed that book into some kind of article, but still was dense. And dense regarding an ordinary ordinary student or ordinary person understanding anything. Marhum Mutahhari delivered 5 or 6 lectures in 1975 for a group of university students in Tehran, in various 2 masjids, Masjid al-Jawad, and there was another masjid, I believe Husseiniya Irshad possibly, but I'm not quite sure. Because his students, or because his audience were primarily students that were not familiar with Irfan and mysticism, his approach is very simple. He literally breaks the concept down and starts from the beginning as to historically where al-Insan al-Kamil, the phrase, comes from, and then moves into various opinions about the universal human being, and ultimately, strangely enough, they seem to both converge. Both Hassan Zada Amali and Marhum Mutahhari converge on the fact that the best example after the Holy Prophet of the Insan al-Kamil, or universal person, is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Marhum Mutahhari does it, but using different approach, because he's delivering the lectures during the month of Ramadan. Naturally, the nights of power and the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen is part of his. And Marhum Hassan Zada Amali, because he starts with Nahjul Balagha, then he moves towards stating that an Insan al-Kamil is nothing but Amir al-Mu'mineen. I also talked about the essence of this conversation to a degree replicates the Greek philosophical understanding, that if you want the debate that they had, how do you rescue or save a society from drifting into sinfulness, or whatever they used to call at that time, both Plato and Aristotle, to a degree, I agree that you need an intellectual, highly intellectual individual to be in charge of the society, which is, out of this was born the leadership of the philosopher within the community. That the philosopher, once in charge of the society, because of the wisdom that he, according to the Greek, he has, then he will be able to rescue the society from corruption. That came into Islamic understanding, and then from there into Irfan and other things. Ibn Arabi took the idea and developed it into a unique concept of al-insan al-kamil. After him, everybody began to use that concept. When we looked at these two approaches, and we looked at a number of Hassan Zadeh Amili says that that Insan al-Kamil may not have been, that's exactly the same point that Marhum Tabatabai talks about, that although Insan al-Kamil, the phrase itself may not have been used earlier, but according to to Marhum Hassan Zadeh Amili, there are 140 sermons in Nahj al-Balagha that one could extricate this idea of Insan al-Kamil from it. And he addresses nearly 70 of them, briefly approaches 70 of these sermons. We started with Khutbah Shaqshaqiya. That Khutbah Shaqshaqiya, the third sermon in Nahj al-Balagha, I'm grateful to Sister Zahia for sending us the translation for everyone to access it, and I explained, please read few of these sermons for today. Khutbah Shaqshaqiya is the third sermon of Nahj al-Balagha, the current Nahj al-Balagha that we have, and within it, it's literally Amir al-Mu'mineen Salawatullah Salam alayhi lays down the foundation of what we call political philosophy and the concept of Imama and Khilafah from his own perspective, where he rejects the attempt that were made by the first, second, and third Khalif to usurp power because they did not deserve it, they were not qualified, and he identifies himself as the most qualified individual after the Holy Prophet. And the way he described himself is very close to the concept of that ideal figure that later on became al-Insan al-Kamil. When we talked about that sermon, then naturally a follow-up to that was to briefly address the concept of Khilafah and Imamah from Shia perspective. Exactly what does Khilafah and Imamah mean? Although it is one of the most central theme in Islamic, not only political theory, but also in the theological concept. But over time, people and scholars have differed as to exactly what makes the Imam and under what circumstance is Khalif. Certainly, all of this is the consequence of Saqifa, where a group of Ansar and Muhajirun got together and appointed between themselves Abu Bakr to be the one, and after that they went to the mosque, asked everyone to go and swear allegiance, while Ali, Ahlul Bayt, and few other disciples of the Holy Prophet were busy trying to arrange the burial of the Holy Prophet. They did not participate within it. Whatever happened after the Saqifa Bani Sa'ida, as time went on and literally the fractured community moved towards constructing their own theological and philosophical basis, two ideas developed. Number one idea, which the Sunni community accepts, that is that it rests on one fundamental principle, that the Holy Prophet did not appoint anyone to succeed him. None at all. And it was left, since community and society and Ummah needs a leadership, it was left to the society to decide between themselves whom they select as a leader. The other group, which this became part of the Sunni understanding of the political philosophy, and the other group was the Shias that said no, rejected this concept and appealed or cited Ghadir Khum and the appointment over there, and that the fact that the Holy Prophet appointed somebody after him in that incident is clear, and we have to follow the command of the Holy Prophet. I'm not going to get into the debate of who's right, who's wrong at the moment, beyond the fact that in the past, this debate about Khilafah and Imamah rested primarily for a long time on the hadith of Ghadir. Man kuntu mawlah fahadha aliyun mawlah. And the Sunni community, either they denied the hadith completely, that there is such a hadith, and they said it's a fabrication by the Shia community, or even if they accepted it, they claimed that the word Mawla in this hadith does not mean leadership. It means simply friend, which led to a huge amount of discussion between the Shias and the Sunnis regarding this issue. Huge amount of literature, literally from the early time up to now, exists. The most recent one is a book by Marhum Allama Amini, Al-Ghadir fi Tarikh, that I think the original Arabic version was probably 10 or 12 volume, and then it translated into Persian, English, and other languages, where Marhum Amini decided to deal with this concept that it is a fabrication of the Shia mindset once and for all, to establish from the Sunni sources, from literally the early part of Islam up to contemporary time, by traveling to all parts of the Muslim world and looking at manuscript and literature that exists specifically regarding this hadith, and proved beyond shadow of a doubt that those people who claim that this is fabrication of the Shia mindset is far from the truth. It's existed. Scholars of Sunni world have admitted it, and that it did exist, and it has continued up to today. The Shia understanding of Imamah, they start with some kind of an analysis of the life of the Holy Prophet first. They say that the Ummah of the Holy Prophet, the Ummah of Islam, because 23 years life of the Holy Prophet was not sufficient for the Ummah to reach its maturity, succession has to be somebody that very close in power to the Holy Prophet. So we have to go to the Holy Prophet and establish that what are the characteristics or the responsibilities or the function of the Holy Prophet, major functions. If we try to break them down into some kind of, in a simple manner, the Holy Prophet, as a prophet, had three major responsibilities, three types. Number one, he was the one that brought the law and the Sharia because he received revelation. So the essence of the source of religious laws was from the Holy Prophet. Also, he acted as some kind of political leader, because society needed somebody to guide the society to its right path, so he acted as a political leader. And that's number two. Also, the third part of it was that he acted as a source of deliberation and explaining the laws, not only just revealing it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that you are given the responsibility of become the first mufassir, tafsir al-Quran. You interpret the laws for the people when there is confusion. So these three responsibilities. Sunnis have accepted only the political leadership. They say the society needs a leader, and that political leader is the one that we accept, and we have the right to choose who is that political leader. Because it doesn't need the function of religious issues are not part of this leadership, then that political leader can be corrupt, can be sinful, can be committing crimes. His role is simply as the central figure to bring the community together. And even today we see in the interpretation that Sunnis have and Wahhabis have regarding Al Saud and so on, he is in charge. Whether he is crook or he is not crook, he is Waliul Amr. And we have to submit to the command of Wali al-Amr. Recently, when the war between Pakistan and India started, the Imam of Masjid al-Haram delivered, which technically it was a sermon given to him to deliver, because they have no authority to write any sermons. Read a sermon. The paper is in front of him. You can look it up in YouTube. The paper is in front of him, so this guy that Hafid al-Quran, so-called, he cannot deliver a sermon without reading a paper. And he was saying that because he is Waliul Amr, sam'an wa ta'a, we have to submit to him irrespective of what he does. If he tells us that in this situation we have to support the Hindus against the Muslims, we would do so sam'an wa ta'a. And if he says that we have to support Israelis against the Palestinians, sam'an wa ta'a, whatever. If he's, by that one can conclude, if he says that people are allowed to drink alcohol and parties and everything else, if he agrees with it, sam'an wa ta'a, we have no authority. So that became the concept of khilafah, which means a political leadership that is devoid of the three major factors that Shias require for the Imam. Number one is the divine choice, selection. Number two is nas, the verbal utterance of statement from the Holy Prophet that appoint somebody in that position. And number three is isma, or infallibility. These three are necessary for the Imam within the Shia community. And hence it cannot, so long as they believe in this, they cannot follow any political leader that goes out of these and becomes, violates these principles. If the concept of selection by Allah, divine selection, is absent, the concept of nas and the holy appointment is absent, the concept of infallibility is absent, what we call material or worldly political leadership is neither here nor there. Within the history of Islam, we have Ghadir clearly stated the appointment, not only the selection. The verse in the Holy Quran clearly states that selection has already taken place. Appointment is necessary before the death of the Holy Prophet, and appointment did take place. And the concept of isma, we have ample proof to indicate that Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ahlul Bayt in general, they fall within the category of isma that we have. And the names of these individual imams have been stated clearly by the Holy Prophet, and one by one until the current imam, which is in hiding. In addition to the debate regarding the political leadership, the religious leadership, as well as the isma, Shia, particularly Urafa, and the mystics also have opted for a unique understanding of Imam to be what we call Hujjatullah ala nas. And there is a hadith from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam. It says, Wallah, ma tarakallah ardan منذ قبض آدم عليه السلام إلا وفيها إمام يهتدى به. From the moment that Adam was removed and was taken by Allah, earth has never been empty of a hujjah, a sign. Some call it Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, that people seek guidance and get guidance from him. وَهُوَ حُجَّتُهُ عَلَىٰ عِبَادِهِ. And this individual, that by the way, when we look into the Urafa's understanding, that is the Insan al-Kamil that they talk about. Hujjah, the most perfect example, is the Insan al-Kamil that they talk about. وَلَا تَبْقَى الْأَرْض بَغَيْرِ إِمَامٍ حُجَّةً لِلَّهِ عَلَىٰ عِبَادِهِ. Until the day of judgment. And earth is not going to be empty of some kind of proof that Insan al-Kamil, some kind of proof that exists on earth until the day of judgment. So one of the debate that we have regarding the presence of the Imam, the living Imam, although he is not seen, but his presence is necessary as part of that hujjah and the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we look about end of time and eschatology, the moment he is assassinated, that's the beginning of wrapping up the entire project of creation that takes place. يَوْمَ نَطْوِ السَّمَاء, that Quran says, like a scroll that we wrap it up, we wrap the entire world very quickly. So that goes into the لولا الحجة, another hadith, لَسَاحَتِ الْأَرْضُ بَأَهْلِهَا. If hujjah and the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't exist on earth, the whole thing is going to collapse. So this is another concept that Ahlul Bayt and Urafa, they have approached, added to this notion of infallibility, explaining of the law. And during the life of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, because the Sunni community said that the Khalif does not need to know anything about Islam. He can be ignorant. And we have a number of ahadith from both Umar and Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, this is by the Sunni community. Inna li shaytanan, I have an inward shaitan that misguides me on a regular basis. So you have to keep an eye on me. Or Umar, لولا علي لهلك عمر. Again, this is another hadith that on a number of occasions when people came to Medina asking about religious issues, he had no clue. And he had to go and ask Amir al-Mu'mineen to explain to them. So this notion that Khalif, out of those three major categories of responsibilities that the Holy Prophet had, because they have opted only for one, the political leadership, somebody that oversees the whole thing, gives order for battle, collects zakat, distributes zakat, and oversees some hadd hudud, punishment, etc., etc. And he doesn't need to know anything about Islam. Ever since Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and after that Muawiyah and so on, none of them have had any clue about religious issues, or they have been able to answer religious issues. Ma'mun, on an occasion that he would organize to understand the law, he would organize what he called some kind of debate and discussion between Imam Rida and a number of religious community leaders from the Jewish, from the Christian, Zoroastrian, and so on, so that he would listen to the argument from both sides. And he learned a little bit out of it. Otherwise, none of them, Bani Umayyah, Bani al-Abbas, or whoever came after. Even the contemporary, I mean, you get to Uthmaniyin and Safawiyin and so on, they were merely political leaders. They had no clue about religious issues. And the famous tobacco fatwa of Marhum Shirazi is quite clear that when he saw that a political act of the king violates the basic principle of integrity of Islam, he gave a fatwa banning tobacco completely. And the British representative had to go back, his mission unfulfilled. And to the point that they say once the fatwa was given, Nasiruddin Shah goes to the palace and asks for a hookah, because qalyan in the Iranian sense. And his wife says, I'm not going to give you a qalyan because Ayatollah Shirazi has given a fatwa and it's haram. So there was a separation, what we call here church and state, separation of the political power from all other religious issues, whether infallibility or nas or selection, certainly. This is one of the major point that Amir al-Mu'minin in various sermons that I said, please read sermon number 2, number 6, and a few others, khutbah and 73 and so on. Amir al-Mu'minin talks to them, to everyone that were there, clearly stating when it comes to knowledge they don't possess, they are devoid of divine selection and nas and appointment, and they are inferior to me as the most perfect example in society. If you go to when he talks about the second khutbah, when he talks about what happened after the life of the Holy Prophet, that these group of people, by the way, when we were talking about khutbah Shaqshaqiya, I said that some Sunni scholars say because in this khutbah he has a scathing attack against Umar, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and how can a Khalif, the fourth Khalif, criticizes the first three, then this is a fabrication. Nahj al-Balagh, but particularly khutbah Shaqshaqiya is a fabrication. If you look at these khutbahs and sermons, you see that Imam never hid away from the criticism of the previous previous political leaders. In khutbah number 2, after the demise of the Holy Prophet, those who took over زرعوا الفجور وسقوه الغرور. They sowed immorality and watered it with arrogance and reaped perdition and destroyed the society. So it's quite clear that he has no love lost for Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. No one from this community may be compared to Ahlul Bayt, and no one is equal to them, and no one is equal to me when it comes to God, having God's favor and God's appointment. Quite clear. يا علي أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. Famous hadith. You are similar to Harun to Musa, but after me, one of the functions of receiving wahy and revelation ceases. So you will not get that. But all other functions you are the one. They are the pillar, Ahlul Bayt are the pillar of religion and the column of certainty. And then he appeals, we hadith from Safinat al-Najat exists. There is the right allegiance and the Prophet's testament to its inheritance. No truth has been, now that he has taken the position of leadership, now truth has been restored to its owner and returned to its own home. Quite clear. This is khutbah number 2. Khutbah Shaqshaqiya we talked about. Khutbah number 6, he says, فوالله ما زلت مدفوعا عن حقي مستأثرا عليه منذ قبض الله نبيه حتى يوم الناس هذا. From the moment that the Holy Prophet departed up to now, by God, from the day God took his messenger unto him until today, I have been continuously driven away from what is divinely mine and passed over me by others. When it came in Khutbah Shaqshaqiya, when he talks about the so-called the Shura, and he says, what kind of a Shura? When was it that I was compared to people, literally to the riffraffs within society? Uthman, Talha, Zubair, Abdullah ibn Auf, Umar ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, all of these are nowhere. And this is Umar, but Amir al-Mu'mineen said, sought immortality. This became later on, when Ali they swore allegiance to Ali. Talha and Zubair say, you have no superiority over us because we were with you as part of the Shura. You see how they use the Shura to justify their own position as equal to Ali. By God, from the early day, he quite clearly states that his right has been removed from him. There is a debate between Ibn Abbas and Umar during the time that this hadith is famous. When Ibn Abbas says that I was with Umar, and Umar said, Ya Ibn Abbas, we know that Ali was the best candidate for this job. There were only 2 issues that we didn't like. Number 1, he was too young. And number 2, we didn't want Khilafah and Nubuwwah to remain in the same household as Bani Hashim. We needed a share of it. So that's what it goes. But I mentioned last time when we were talking about the debate between Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr and Muawiyah, when Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr writes a letter to Muawiyah condemning him for opposing Ali and standing up against Ali, Muawiyah responds, this is a path we all knew that Ali was the most suitable candidate. And it was your dad that started the path that we are now following that path. So if there is a condemnation or criticism to be delivered, it has to be to your father first for starting this business up. And if you don't want to criticize your father for starting the whole thing, then it's better not to say anything about anybody else. And there are go and read during the appointment of these 6 individuals, how Omar chastises these, apart from Ali, chastises all of these 5, from Uthman to Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and Talha, Zubair, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and all of them for being unqualified. Even Uthman for being unqualified to lead the community, but yet he structures the Shura in a manner that Uthman, it becomes the natural outcome right from the beginning. He knew that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, cousin of Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Abdurrahman ibn Auf is brother-in-law or brother-in-law of Uthman. These three are already secured allegiance for Uthman. When he says, if there is a 3-3 breakdown, the 3 that Abdurrahman ibn Auf is within it has the superiority, that means I'm voting for Uthman right from now. Why? Because Uthman, when Abu Bakr was dying and he wanted to appoint somebody, Uthman was the one who told Abu Bakr to appoint Umar. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But in a different style. So we see لقد علمتم in خطبة 73 لقد علمتم أني أحق الناس بها من غيري. He's telling people